Okay, so why do people use Meridian? Well, there's a list here, and there's a lot of items on it, but the ones in red are really the key, and you can drill down into that even further. There's one key element of why customers use Meridian, and it's all about that manage and control of your documentation and your engineering drawings. There are lots of EDMs that they call them, not engineering document management systems, but enterprise document management systems that we see out there, like SharePoint and so on, that people believe will manage their data. And so, yes, it does, of course it does, but it doesn't manage engineering data. So this is where Meridian plays a key role. That's its strength, managing complex, heavy, file-based engineering data. It's all about controlling that in a particular secure environment. So of course we have the typical document numbering, your revision management, your metadata relationships, and so on. X-references being a key for Meridian as well, that some other EDM systems out there don't offer. So it's all about collaborating, sharing your data, searching for it, retrieving it, redlining it, marking it up, and comparing it, and so on. So a typical workflow that you would get in most pharmaceutical sites, utility sites. But what you get extra in Meridian is the last two, the audit trail and the regulatory compliance. It's within the FDA module of Meridian, which actually we do have implemented in AbbVie, and that would be typical in the pharma environment, where it's helping companies comply with the 21 CFR Part 11 compliance requirements. So the typical reasons why. So the Meridian, what I'm going to just go show here very, very quickly is Meridian has, or Acruent is the name of the vendor, and Acruent has various modules or offerings within its portfolio. I want to show you here some of those and how they connect with Meridian. So you've got a typical Meridian server, where you would have your data created, managed, and so on. Now that server can be in the cloud or it can be on premise, but I've got that. It's within your firewall, a firewall. It pushes out or publishes data to the Explorer, which is like a quarantined area, and from there you can actually then integrate with the likes of your Office applications, ERPs, other your like Maximos and so on. Now I've got maintenance connection down there is the CMMS offering from Acruent. So it's fully inbuilt with and connected with Meridian. It's equivalent to Maximos, I guess, and SAP PM, but its benefit when you do have Meridian is that it's directly connected and same family. It's very easy to implement, very low cost, initial low cost to install compared to the likes of the big heavy Maximos and so on. And then Meridian Mobile, just effectively what it says. It's just it's the mobile version of the Meridian, where you can on the go get access to your master drawings. Again, all within your secure firewall. And the portal bit, that's what we're going to concentrate on today. That's what Owen's going to show you. So it's outside your firewall. It's in the cloud. It's a web-based portal for exchanging data with external contractors. And then we have a KiCloud is what that's called. It's outside your firewall. It's another offering from Acruent. It's like a little survey tool that we're not going to talk about now, but it's just want to highlight that. So Meridian, the platform can be on-premise, server-based, physical server, or whether that's hosted by a third party for yourself, like Azure or so on, or a cloud version hosted by Acruent themselves. And then you've got your clients feed into that. So you've got your Meridian Portal, which is what we're going to look at, Meridian Explorer, Meridian Power, and Meridian Mobile. So we're going to look at the Meridian Portal, and we'll explain a little bit more. So Meridian, a typical example of how external contractors would exchange data with a client, or how a client would exchange data with its external contractors. So somebody who has Meridian, for instance, would have server. Your server is where you have your application, your databases, your publishing engine that publishes your data or your master joins out, and where also your CAD applications and your Office applications sit in some type of file share for sharing that out. You've got your power user, which is your sort of local workspace. That's your Meridian client. And that's where your CAD software for each engineer sits, and that's where they'd be working away locally. Creating the joins, managing the joins. Again, all on the left-hand side of your firewall, that's all sitting within your own network. Then the typical example would be some type of a VPN, Citrix for instance, being used for external contractors maybe outside that to get access to Meridian. We have a number of customers that do use that scenario, and they have raised their hands numerous times over the years. Major problems, huge costs, poor performance, security problems, and providing access to the engineers actually getting into the master joins. So there now is a solution. There wasn't before, but there now is a solution from Acruent over the last couple of years called Meridian Portal that eliminates that. So what is Meridian Portal? Well, it's basically a secure cloud-based collaboration tool to use with your external stakeholders, your contractors, and it allows you to exchange that documentation without giving them direct access to your internal network, your master data, and your workflows. In other words, your crown jewels, is what we call them. It's a licensed solution, so you need license fees for each time a contractor gets up into the portal, but it provides then that safety, compliance, and audit trail, which is key for FDA, for instance, CRU audits. Okay. So we're going to concentrate on Portal here. So typically, as I said, your Meridian server would be where all your control data is on your left-hand side of the screen there. It's where you create and you manage all your drawings. Typically where your document controller sits, the client's document controller in the engineering team. May not be a specific document controller, could be engineering lead, for instance. And he will create and manage that data, the documents, drawings, etc. over on the left-hand side. That would be published out to a quarantined area called Meridian Explorer, and that's where the typical non-CAD teams would retrieve, search, view, print the data from. It's like a little quarantined area. But again, all within your network, all within your firewall. So quarantined, secure, managed. Outside that firewall then is how the data would be shared from Explorer out to Meridian Portal, outside your firewall, where the contractors or other external bodies can get access to data. So no Citrix, no VPN required. So again, just to focus in on that, so what you can do in the Meridian on the server side is, and what Owen's going to show you, is he's going to play two roles. He's going to be the document controller for the client. Sitting in the Meridian server is where you can create, you can modify, you review, you accept and reject the data, you can approve it. Key, where you manage your master data, that data being drawings, documents, other assets, user manuals, all the typical engineering data that you would get. Shares it out through that firewall up into a secure web portal for external contractors for exchange of data, for them to, they will acknowledge the data, they review it, accept it, reject it again, push it back within certain timescales. Timescales can be set up by the document controller, and then requests can be resent, pulled back. Emails are automatically automatically sent, so people are notified either outside to the external contractor and again back into the document controller when certain things are accepted or rejected. Everyone's notified via email, and so all very securely. And then once information or drawings are updated, pushed back up into the portal by the contractor, then it can be pulled back down into the Meridian server by the document controller. Sounds a wee bit maybe convoluted, but it is really, really simple. It's almost instantaneous, and you'll see that from the way Owen does it.
I am aware, probably, I know this is specifically towards the Meridian Portal, this webinar or demo, but I do think it would be potentially useful just to give you a very, very brief overview of the Meridian interface and the application and what it does. I had actually planned to use the same slide that Matt used, the why do they all use Meridian slide. So thanks, Matt, for covering that. It sort of gives the guys a rough idea of what Meridian's doing in the first instance.
Yeah. Just to interject there, Owen, yeah, it would be typical scenario, guys, that you would have seen Meridian first and then maybe Explore and then Portal, but it just so happened that Sean came back to me regarding the Portal bit. So hopefully you don't get lost without having seen Meridian.
Yeah.
Right, Owen?
Yeah, I'll just give a brief overview of some of the things that Matt mentioned, like the things like the document metadata, the numbering, the revision management, X references, and the workflow. It's very beneficial to do that before I actually start to explain the portal, because there are elements which do cross over. So if you can see my screen there, that's just, I've just loaded the Meridian interface. So one of the interesting things there is this dialog box asking me to put in my username and password. Now, as Matt mentioned, the CFR 21 part 11, the FDA module that Acruent provide for Meridian, which is compliant with that part of the FDA. This is the first thing you would see. So it's an additional layer of security of an authorization on top of your standard Meridian. Standard Meridian doesn't actually have this. This is something that would be an additional module. So it just adds an additional layer of authentication on top of the application, so that, for instance, if one of the engineers gets up and walks away from their desk, it just means that someone can't just come behind them and click on Meridian and open and see all the documents. So in here, the interface, and as I say, I'm going to keep this very brief, and I think probably would be beneficial to arrange a follow-up, and we'll look at Meridian in its entirety. But you can see here we have a folder structure similar to the standard Windows Explorer folder structure. The main difference being that this is very much controlled, and it's very strictly controlled, so that all users are creating documents in the correct location, and people aren't just creating folders all over the place just for their own documents and whatever else. You can see here that all the documents have their own sort of, it has a standard naming convention, which is another thing that's controlled by Meridian. And then on this, the document properties pages here, we'll have some standard properties, and then the master drawing properties, they're the most relevant. So we can see that we have the building, the area, discipline, document type, and so on and so forth. Again, these things, you can have as many properties in there, as little properties in there as you want. Some of these properties will be compulsory, and the reason that they're compulsory is because they make up another element of the document, such as the naming convention or the document's location. So we look at some of those properties. We can see that the building is one of the folder levels, and then we can see that architecture is one of the folder levels, and the document subtype is one of the folder levels. And then if we look at the first digit of each of the values, we can see that it actually makes up the full file name there. All right, so as well as that, just Matt was talking about Xref management. So this is how the Xref would appear. Now this is just the connection between an asset and a document, and then a document and its master. or slash project copy. But if there's an Xref attached to a document, it will also get its own link in here so that you can see exactly which X references are associated with each document. So if there's no other questions on the interface there, I know it was very, very brief, but I'm conscious of time and I just want to make sure I get everything done with the portal here. I'll continue on.
Don't know if you can hear me there, guys.
Yes, can indeed, yeah.
Just a quick question there. I couldn't figure out how to unmute the mic, but the Xref, so say that we've CAD installed, we'll say in the office, will AutoCAD actually navigate to an Xref drawing and pick up the latest version, or do you have to keep downloading it from the system?
Oh, so the thing is, right, so for instance, just say you had master drawing A and you had X reference 1. If you were, so there's a couple of different scenarios there, and it's probably something we'll get into in a bit more detail further on down the line, but if you had X reference 1 loaded into master drawing A, if you were to uprev master drawing A, and then open it in AutoCAD, it would automatically pull in the X reference, so you don't have to browse for that all the time. Because that link created in Meridian, it automatically downloads the X reference at the same time as you're opening the master drawing.
And AutoCAD knows where to find it. Once you launch AutoCAD, it'll pick it up there.
Yeah, it's all seamless. Yeah.
So we're opening drawings through Meridian as opposed to opening drawings from our server.
So yes, you can open drawings.
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can also, so from within inside the AutoCAD application, there's also an integration where, you know how normally you would probably browse in the application file open, browse to a server location. There's actually an interface in there that allows you directly in Meridian Vault. And when you're opening that document, you can also see which X references are loaded are sort of associated with that master drawing before you open it. And then again, just similar to standard AutoCAD, whatever the AutoCAD sort of application itself, if it can't find the X reference for whatever reason, it will let you know. But the good thing about Meridian is because the X references are associated with a Meridian, the paths are all relative, so it doesn't have to look for the exact path. It just looks for a part of the path and then automatically downloads the X reference. A bigger question that would need to be discussed further on down the line would be the management of X references and whether updating the X reference, if you're updating the X reference, all of the master drawings should then be updated, or whether all the master drawings would need to be uprevved whenever the X reference is updated, if you understand me. But again, it's probably not really beneficial to get into that now because it's not that much associated with the portal application, but I would dare say Matt's probably going to try and schedule some sort of Meridian specific demo in the near future. Yeah,
that would be my next step, guys, to show you the interface and maybe a 30-minute session on Meridian, the power of the server application.
Cool. Just what you've been saying, guys, so it actually sounds like it's possible, we'll say, from our end, we currently have our control drawings in a WE file server, which we map to our PCs. So like the thing is, I suppose we would maybe send attachments out to vendors and, you know, say I update the Xref tomorrow and then Martin sends it out later in the week. You know, there's a danger that his contractors are working off the previous Xref. So it would probably be possible for us to move all our control drawings onto this portal, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so what they would actually be doing there, Connor, is you would first load all your control drawings into Meridian, right? And then Meridian manages all that for you. So for instance, what you're saying there is if you updated an X reference, Martin would then have to go and open the master drawing, load in the new X reference and save it before he sends it out to the contractor. But Meridian can handle all that for you. So in previous times for other customers who are using X references, what we would do is if they put an X reference under change or they were making an edit to an X reference, basically what would happen is the Meridian interface would pop a window up to them and say, look, this X reference is used in drawings 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you need to make sure that you're putting those drawings under change and updating the X reference. Do you want to do that? They click yes, and then that's automatically done for them.
Okay, super, yeah.
So that's something it is a problem that we do see with customers, and it is something that we have dealt with before. So you're definitely talking to the right people here. It sounds like that's a problem that you've had in the past. Would that be a good assumption?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just, if we're trying to share drawings, like, would say some of our, no, it's because we've combined layers and layers over years, but there's one particular Xref and it's 20 meg, so there's some things we actually can't, it's nice to be able to send an email in one go and you have everything there, but I suppose some of our typical design teams, if we had those set up, we'll say with this, and we could just, as soon as we're updating Xrefs, they're seeing the most recent ones there. I think that'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, well, the benefits of this are going to be sort of twofold then, Connor. So, first of all, Meridian will look after the updating of the X references, but then the portal will also eradicate the issue where you can't send the X references along with the master because the email restrictions and whatever else. So there's no real restriction. There is you can't send documents that are like 5 and 6 gig, but I mean, you're talking 20 meg, 30 meg maybe. So there's no restriction on that end with regards to the Meridian portal.
Okay, perfect.
All right, happy days, guys. So those are good questions, Connor and Martin there. So definitely keep them coming, because we obviously want you to get as much information out of this as you can. So if I just work on here and just show you how we would actually use the Meridian portal to send documents to a contractor, and then thereafter bring it back in to Meridian. If there are any questions, certainly give me a shout. So, as Matt said there, Meridian Portal is actually a web-based client which allows external contractors to access a working copy of specific documents, specific being the key word in that sentence. So it doesn't grant them access to your master data. And there's no need for intermediary applications such as Citrix or SharePoint or file shares, whatever it may be. Your control data still remains under lock and key in your Meridian Vault. So the contractors can only see documents that you have sent to them for either for information or for revision. Just something to note, it might not be beneficial, it might not be something that you're looking to do, but the portal will also allow external contractors to upload brand new documents if that's a requirement that you have. But typically speaking, the portal is used for changes to master documents. So a document will be, a project copy of a document will be sent out to the portal, updated by the contractor, sent back in to Meridian, and then that project copy would then be merged into the master drawing. What we tend to see people doing is they would create project copies of the document and then send the project copy out to the portal. So it's sort of an additional step there in terms of keeping the editable document away from the master. So the contractor only has control over the project copy, and then it's up to the document controller to accept those changes and then merge them into the master drawing. So in order to create a project copy from Meridian, the guys would simply just have to right click on, find the master drawing, obviously first of all that they want to be changed. Right click on it, come down to master/project copy, and then click on create project copy. That automatically brings them up the dialog to select the folder that they want to add the project copy to. So I've just created this project folder here for this webinar. So if I select OK, it's bringing me up the dialog to allow me to create a project copy. I select OK in there. Just has a wee think, and then automatically the project copy is created in that project folder. So if I select on just the project folder there and look at the properties of that, I can actually see that that is linked to the Meridian portal, and this is the project that it's linked to. I can obviously click on that and it'll bring me up that project. It's asking me to sign in there, but I'll cover that in a minute there. So once, I'm just going to send one document for the basis of this demonstration, but you can add as many documents as you want in there and send them all in the one package. So once the document's ready to be sent to the portal, if I click on it, master project copy, send to Meridian Portal, brings me up with a dialog box here, asking me to select the recipient in that project. So in here, there's a list of recipients. These are just a couple of guys that I've added in here. But again, these will be more relevant to you in terms of the contractors that you're going to be sending to. In here, you can see their name and their role. So different users can be assigned different roles in the project, and that the roles will control what actions or privileges they have in the project. So for instance, if they're a contractor, then they'll have the ability to edit the documents, download and edit the documents and re-upload. If they're a reviewer or an approver, they only have the ability to review and approve the document in the portal before sending it back to Meridian. I'm just going to send this to myself as a project owner, just because that means I have total control over the document. It also asks me if I want to include the CAD references, and I can give the package a description. Please change as per discussion. I select OK. The little lock icon appears, and it tells me that that document is now locked in an export package. So once I sent the document to the portal, I can just see it in this export packages page. As you can see here, it gives you some information about the package. It gives you the name of the package, which is made up of who it was sent to, the date and time it was sent. The type of package that it is, just a standard package. The status of it, that description that I applied there, just as it was filling in the page. When it was created, what job it's going to use, and who the recipient is. Now, in this export packages tab, if a document is sent out more than once, this will keep a track of it all. So it's very useful for FDA audit trail purposes. So for instance, if the FDA were coming in to do an audit on or sort of a compliance check, and they wanted to know how many times a specific document was sent out, you can come in here and just use this interface, and it'll tell you exactly how many times a document was sent out, who it was sent out to, when it was sent out, whether it was successful. And similarly, with the import packages tab, you can see who sent the document back, when it was sent back, and so on and so forth. So just another thing, when I refer to packages, the documents are sent in a package, whether it's one document or 100 documents, it doesn't really matter. They're all bundled into a zip file, so that the metadata and all of the relevant documents are sent in the one bundle. Okay, so if I just refresh that, that should have sent by now. Yeah, so now that's sent. Okay, so right now, as a document controller, I have nothing else to do. So I finished my task. I've sent the document out to the contractor. It's now up to the contractor to make the changes and then re-upload that back to me in the portal for me to either approve it or reject it. So if you forget about me being the document controller, I'm actually now the contractor. So now the document's been sent to me for editing, I get a notification email, and it says a package has been sent to you from Meridian. If I click open, it'll bring me into the portal, and I can sign in. A couple of different things there, just to mention. I don't want to get bogged down in it now, but there's a couple of different methods to sign in. You can use a Microsoft account, a Google account, and most people nowadays use an Office 365, so that's the built-in Azure Active Directory. If I just click on that, it'll ask me to sign in using my credentials, my Office 365 credentials. So once I sign in, it brings me automatically to that package that I just sent. Okay, so that document that I just sent myself, it gives me some high-level details in here. So the package details, it was submitted by the description that I added in, what type of package it is, so on and so forth. Then we have some high-level document information, so the master document number, the title, version, document type, when it was created. The source is a DWG file, and who it's assigned to. If I click on the details tab here, it actually gives me some more information. So if I just look back at Meridian here and look at that document that I had sent out, looking at the master drawing properties there, the building, the area, the discipline, the doc type, all of those properties are actually taken across. You have to excuse discipline, I was having a problem with that. So all those document properties are taken across, the titles for the documents and all those kind of things. So again, whichever properties you have in the document in Meridian can also be presented here. And in here as a contractor, I have the ability to come in, edit these properties and make changes if I wish. So yeah, are there any questions so far, guys? I'm just cautious of maybe running on too fast. Okay, so as I said, these properties are sort of can be synchronized in both directions. So obviously those properties came from Meridian to the portal, but if the contractor was to edit those, they could be then synchronized from the portal back into Meridian automatically. Okay, so that's just something to be aware of. So another thing, if I click on the documents tab, it'll only show me documents that I have assigned to me as the contractor in this project. Okay, so it's just worth noting that, again, the contractor can only see the documents which have been sent to them. All right, in here as well, just there's another audit trail just to let you know for FDA purposes, and it tells you every action that's taken in here. So that's just something that you might want to be aware of. So as a contractor, the most important thing for me is basically to be downloading this document and making the changes. So to do that, I can right click, or I can click on this ellipsis, select source, and it's automatically downloaded. From here, I can click it, open it in AutoCAD or whatever application you may use. Are you guys, I think you are just using AutoCAD, are you, or what is it?
AutoCAD for 2D, and some of us are using Inventor for 3D, but our control drawings are all 2D at the moment.
Okay, no problem. That's that one. So I can open that, make a change, save it, and then, sorry, let's have to ignore the words. Applications. That's one of our Pentagon applications that Matt was talking about earlier on. So as a contractor, I have downloaded the document, made the changes, and I now want to re-upload this to the portal. So a couple of different methods to do this. I can just select on the upload files. That'll bring me up this sort of empty window to allow me to upload. I can click on upload files in here, or sorry, add files, and it'll bring me this dialog box. Or else, if I am in the location where the files are existing, I can simply drag it and drop it in here. That's sort of the most user-friendly way that I've found. But obviously it depends on sort of how many you're doing of these and how often you're doing it. So it does a quick scan there. It checks if there's no dependencies found, and it meets the compliance. So the dependencies and the compliance are sort of set up by the company who is using the portal. So the compliance would be things like making sure that the document has any X references associated with it are uploaded as well, making sure that it's a DWG, making sure that there's content in the file, and so on and so forth. There's a number of different ones, but again, that's getting into the nitty gritty of it. And here I want to just change the document type to a generic document. Over here, it's in the commit as section, it's saying to me that I'm going to commit this as a new document, but I'm actually going to be trying to upload or update an existing document. So If I click on the match button here, the target icon, it has a think. It goes and looks, checks if the document with the same ID already exists, and then it's then allowing me to update the current revision. So once I've done that, if I select commit all, the document's there for routing. So all I need to do is tick it, add it to the clipboard. Once I come into the clipboard, I can then send this for approval. I'm going to send it to myself. And I only want it to be approved by one person. So once I click send, I get the notification in the bottom right hand side that the revision has been sent for approval. And now, as a contractor, I've done everything that I can do here. Okay, so now forget about me as being a contractor. I'm going to be a document controller now. And if I look here, I will get a notification email. Yeah, so there's it there. So now, as a document controller, I've got a notification email to say that I have been assigned a document for approval. So if I click on open, again, just brings me directly into the interface at that package. Okay, so if I wanted to, as a document controller, if I wanted to actually check the geometry of the drawing, I can download that and open it again. I can then check the properties, making sure that everything's okay, making sure that any properties that I required to be changed were changed, so on. Sorry, I'll just close that there. I didn't actually mean to open it. And then if from in here I can decide whether I want it to be approved or not approved. So if I was to select not approved, I would then have to send that back to the contractor and tell them to make further changes. But once, if I click approved here, tell me this is the last document of the approval package and we'll complete the package. That's fine. I select approved. Now the approval status has been updated. So now the package type was approval and the status is complete. So if I come back to this document in the documents window, I can see that the approval has now got a tick and I can send that back to Meridian. So if I append that to the clipboard, select on the clipboard, click send to Meridian. Select OK, and now I just come back to the documents menu. I can now see that that document status is updated from for routing to in Meridian. So now that's the full thing finished then. So in the background, Meridian task will run and import that new document. The important thing to note is that when the document's imported, it will replace the contents of the project copy, and then it's up to the document controller to then merge that project copy into the master. And that's really it, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Mike. Bye.
Speak soon. Bye.